8. Family is all who can think with you. You feel me?
Fighting for black dance is not a thing you do for recognition, you know. It's a thing you do because you know it's necessary to do it. Because you know you have been sent here to do that. I'm not a person who wants to leave material things. I want to leave something in the world that impacts on people's lives. I want to know that when I leave, a little girl, a little boy will say, I am black and I'm going to dance that.
Welcome to Black Manifesto, the 10 Commandments. Black Women Speak Out, a podcast series hosted by Nora, chipaumire, and myself, Pawlet Brookes. Black Manifesto brings together voices of black women from around the world as a collective conversation, making the invisible visible and addressing how we work to reshape a new world in which black women are seen and heard. The guests on this podcast share their reflections unapologetically, so please be aware of uses of strong language and references to personal struggles and traumas. In this episode, L'Antoinette Stines reflects on the people whom she considers family, the importance of building connections with people from across all walks of life, and how this perspective has shaped her own personal and professional practice as she considers the 8th commandment, family is all who can think with you. Family is all who can think with you is the commandment for this episode. Before we start, can you give an offering of the importance of family?
Family. I remember my father, when I was a little girl, said to me, family is not blood family. Family is people who go through life with you. Family are people who share your experience and is there all the time to support you. So, for example, you might be where you are, but for knowing you for so many years, Pawlet, and always supportive of Black Alco, you're family. But in Jamaica, we have another word, family. Family is the people who you suffer with, the people who you eat out of one pot from. Family are the people in the dance world that have to fight and struggle together. All of us who hold hands from faraway lands, fighting for our voices to be heard in Black dance, for our bodies to be seen as equal on the same level as every other dance, for our languages, our dance languages to be accepted. These people are all family. So family is extremely important. Not only the family, your genetic or family, but all the others who you share your life with it's very important.
So if family is important, through spirit, mind and body, from the onset, you've decided to develop a Caribbean expression to the forefront. How do you express tradition as a codified technique?
Tradition is a very big word, because tradition speaks to divine authority, not in scripture. It speaks to customs, beliefs, passed down generation to generation. So I've always, from day one, spoken to spirit, mind, and body as one in harmony. I don't believe dancer can just use the body to dance. Because if the body alone is dancing, it's like a machine. So using the spirit and mind and body, remembering the traditions of our people, allows us to have identity, specificity, and not crisis. It allows us to overstand who we are as a people, because it allows us to go back into our history, because the traditions have been passed on from generation to generation to get to us. Sometimes we forget that it didn't come out of our head, that it was brought here by our ancestors and have become tradition over time. So it's very important to use tradition in dance languages to communicate who we are as a people. Yeah.
So when we look at tradition and we look at technique, can you talk to me a little bit about land tech and overstanding and the term synabridging?
Land tech is a codified examinable technique that I have created over a long time, because I don't tell you the long time, because it will age me, but it's long time. Lantek, the original, is really the shortening for the word Lanaya Reggae Technique. It is a technique that is created to give respect to all that is here in my country, and it bleeds into the rest of the Caribbean, that was washed across the ocean. It is a technique that, through critical research, found its way back to finding movement structure in Egypt that resembles classical ballet. It's a technique that accepts that we in Jamaica are many nations that have created nation language. Now, nation language is the language we made because we were in the bowels of the ship, sitting next to our brothers and sisters, and can't speak to them because one speak Ewe, one speak Congolese, one speak Yoruba. And this man who is beating me and looking at me speaks a language that I've never heard before, because it doesn't have my tonations either. I don't know what it is. So here we are, not able to orally communicate, but we can, with the body, the nation dances that come from all the nations, communicate. So in Lantek, we have, remember what we call now, it's called now a nation dance language. Because we created nation language, and that is why I speak Patois, Haiti speak Creole, Suriname speak Papiamento, and it goes on and on. These nation languages we created in order to communicate with each other. So in these languages, you have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. In Lantek, we represent the nation languages in nation dance language on the body. And so we give respect to everything that was washed ashore. And we accept each other's tradition as something to be appreciated and respected and acknowledged. Overstand now. Now you have to know it's a technique that you go through examinations. You go from level 1 to level 6. You have textbook. You have to know the history of the movement structure. When you're finished, you're a thinking dancer. You can teach back everything. Overstand now is a very interesting word, Over. Rastaman say, I overs. You overs me? And academics at first look at it and think, oh, they don't know how to talk, so them just make up a word. But Rastaman make up or create language. For them to understand means to not comprehend. Because it's under. I go under a table. I go underneath. I go under. Over for them is to fully comprehend what I'm saying. But it goes further. You overstand means you have been invited into the Jerusalem schoolroom of wisdom. I mean, no, you're going to say, no, why you going to drop Jerusalem schoolroom, L'Antoinette? Okay, here is another set of words. So let me fix the Jerusalem schoolroom part quickly. Jerusalem schoolroom is not a place with walls, and a roof and a space. It's a space that is within you. A space that comes with wisdom. A space which allows you to be able to communicate on higher levels. A space in which you get learning, spiritual understanding of life. So for the Rastaman to fully overs is to have the ability of having Jerusalem schoolroom knowledge. The word knowledge comes from gnosis, which means spirituality is involved. And so you have this knowledge that you can now overstand yourself, why you are here, and what is your purpose. That's overstanding. And the other bridge, right?
Yes.
I'm not doing too badly, man. I remember it. Synerbridge. That is my word. What Lantek does is synergize to bridge cultures. So you see, synergize to bridge cultures. So put them together, and I think what we do is synerbridge. So let's talk about on the body, how we synerbridge on the body. On the body, remember I said originally that we accept who we are as a people. You cannot be a Jamaican with a grandfather who was from Scotland, a grandmother who have maroon African heritage, one that is Chinese, I'm partly speaking about myself, somebody with Indian, and ignore that. I'm not telling you you must get rid of your European grandfather. It's your grandfather. You have to remember him and love him. So what we do is classical ballet is included in the Sinner Bridge because it came off the ocean at the same time. The Caucasians came off and landed with the African at the same time. Although they were in the minority, they did more work. They knew how to market and publicize and themselves to make sure that their knowledge is more dominant. But it is here. So you can be doing a tendu exercise, which is pointing your toes, tendu devant, à la seconde derrière. And at the same time, you can be doing yan valu. So we have what is called yan valu tendu, which means the body is doing yan valu, which is a dance which is dominantly found in Haiti, but it's now all over the Caribbean because it simply is rippling. And rippling represents the oceans and the rivers as well. Yan valu is done for the god Dambala, which is the snake god. So the upper body is rippling while the feet are doing tendus at the same time. Just like doing a plie, which means to bend the knee in classical ballet, and doing a grand plie, which is a big bend, and you doing a bubble at the same time, which comes out of dancehall, which came from Africa. So in Sinner Bridge, you don't do the thing separately. You do it on the body at the same time. You don't walk in yan valu, then tendu like a ballerina. You do them at the same time. That's Sinner Bridging.
So given the historical nature of dance and the different elements and layers that you've just talked about, why is it important to embrace critical thinking and encourage curiosity?
I love your question, and I'm embarrassed by the question. Because the question comes about because we do have dancers that do not have critical thinking and don't have curiosity. You know, if that wasn't so, you wouldn't ask that question. We have dancers who today are physically enslaved. We have dancers who today have accepted that black dancers I'm talking about. Let me just be clear. I'm talking about black dancers who might get upset with me today, but I really have to. This is L'Antoinette speaking, and this is how L'Antoinette works. I have to say what the divine energy of the universe tell me to say. There are black dancers who look at other black dancers as not being able to dance because they are not ballerinas. There are black dancers who walk around very stush and bourgeois because I'm a ballerina. You understand? And therefore have lost respect or don't have respect for the dancers who are dancing in nation dance languages. You remember, that jazz came out of New Orleans off the street, end up in the dance studio. It came from Ebonics, the nation language Ebonics. And it's a very, very wonderful technique. I see people trying to claim that there is no of other shade, colors, and creeds, but it's black people from America create jazz. So we have to have critical thinking of dancers, especially now when we're talking about Black Lives Matter. Everything matters. All scholarly work, and dance is scholarly work. We have to stop and think about who we are. I am because you are, the Ubuntu statement. We have to know that if you cannot go and do what they do in Africa, in African dance, as well as they are, then it must have a degree of difficulty and a technical methodology for learning it. So we must respect it. You can be a diva ballerina. You can be a diva African dancer. You can be a diva Lantic dancer. You can be a diva Graham dancer, diva Horton dancer. You can be a diva Indian dancer, a classical Indian dancer. And it is just as valuable and important as being a ballerina. And as Black people, we are to start respecting and critically thinking about who we are and speaking about it and making sure that these things become highly respected on equal levels.
So, given your both love and disappointment simultaneously of Black dancers, what is the force that pushes you to teach every day?
I'm going to tell you something. Even the dancers who are not critical thinkers, I love them. I want to make that very clear. I am so proud of our Black ballerinas because it was said that we could not dance ballet. So for me, they are revolutionary and resistance in what they have done in proving to the world that Blacks can dance ballet. I have to clarify that, okay? We have to understand I was first trained in classical ballet and I loved it. When I said that to some of my dancers, they said, what? I said, I loved it. I honestly and truly loved it. But one morning, many years ago, and I am answering your question, I sound like I'm going in a circle, but I have to say this. The first person that impacted on my soul was a liquor rasta man that sold fruits downtown King Street in front of the bank where I worked. Nobody would speak to him. And I would go down every day and buy orange and banana and speak to him. And the Jerusalem schoolroom wisdom that this man shared with me. Now I'm a young girl, 18, just left high school. So you can imagine that is the man that I think God put there to start to teach me. You know, and he taught me so much. And I was leaving shortly after for America, and he entered the bank. He never enters the bank, you know. So he kind of smells sweaty. He came up the staircase to the third floor to bring me a necklace that he made that looked like a Cleopatra necklace. I was 18. Right now, I am an old woman, and I will not forget it. And those moments impact on why I teach every day. And why I tell you, I am so proud of these beautiful Black dancers that do ballet beautifully. I am saying there is another voice you can have. I am not saying you get rid of that voice. I'm saying there is another language. It's called Lantic. It puts together the ballet with a lot of other languages that also represents you. I am not saying we must not do ballet. I want to make that very clear. But I was put here for this purpose, you know. I always ask the question. I don't remember when I landed on this earth, you know, because you people believe when you're born, you land. No, for me, I don't think I fully landed until many years later. It's as if I was wandering in this world as a spirit, but physically here. And I remember trying to do every kind of dance. I remember standing on the corner of the road downtown King Street. No, not King Street, Windward Road, with the revival woman, because I had a lady who took care of me, a nanny. And my mother worked at the drive-in theater at nights. And she took me out the house and carried me to the revival woman, and we go in a circle and beat the tambourine. And my mother, until this day, don't know that. And she has left us. That same woman took me to go-go clubs. I was only 6 or 5 or 7. And she gave me a Pepsi. And she said, sit right here. And she told me, don't tell my mother. And I never told my mother. My mother heard about it the day I was doing my PhD defense, and she was in shock in the room. And my mother changed color. Remember, my mother was Chinese and Indian. And she was changing color in the room when she heard I was going to go-go clubs. I had those experiences because the divine energies want me to have those experiences. The divine energy want me to know people from every walk of life. And they're all important to my growth. I have been taught by many different teachers, and they are very important. My experience with Baba Chuck, very important. Ivy Baxter, who is forgotten, who said to me, why you walk in a ballet step and then stand up like a Jamaican? Where is the progression movement to get to the Jamaican step? My mentor, Alma Mokien, all these people, but primarily the divine energy of the universe that set me here for a purpose. And so I will teach dance until it's time to go. And I am passing it on to others. So if I don't teach, I have certified Lantic teachers. Orain Frater just taught a masterclass in London to people from all over the world, and he taught Lantic. I watched and cried. It means that I have taught you so you can now keep it going. And that is also important. This is my job now, making sure that there are certified teachers that will teach land tech. I didn't do it because I wanted to have it in my pocket. I did it for the world.
So, how do we continue to resist and revolutionize through the body?
I think we can't resist and revolt through the body unless the mind become liberated. You know, when Bob Marley say, free yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves can free our minds.
Yeah.
Oh, powerful words, you know. Powerful words. Resist and revolution from the body comes first by freeing ourselves, our souls from slavery. Remember, you know, I wrote a book called Soul Casing, and the reason why I named it that was because the body is just a frame for your soul. You know, the soul is like a chip in a phone. You can take it out and move it to a next phone. It's like a chip. But when you move it, all the information moves it. You know, might lose one or two effects, so get what, but information moves with it. And so we go from lives. And this soul goes with us. We have to remember that memories, ancestral memories, are in our soul. We have to free our minds from mental slavery, but we also have to free our soul. And we have to understand that each of us have a responsibility, and it's a jigsaw puzzle. I am a little corner of that jigsaw puzzle. You are over there doing what you call it as a part of the jigsaw puzzle. You know, Baba Chuck did what he was doing as a part of a jigsaw puzzle. Catherine Dunham did what she was doing. Pearl Primus did what she was doing. Ivy Baxter, the name is long. Eduardo Rivera, Rarima Guerra from Cuba. All parts of these younger generation need to know, that need to come into the jigsaw puzzle. All of us are a part of that puzzle. And it is our responsibility to support the, if you know we have a jigsaw puzzle, if you pick it up and it's all not together, you know, it just goes up and crash. So we all have to support each other in that jigsaw puzzle. Just like we have to support our black ballerinas and love them dearly and applaud them and make sure the world know about them, because they have proven that we can do anything. And that is why on Atlantic, you do arabesques, you do développés. The technique is to train you to step out of to move into ballet if you want. I'm not telling you where to go when you finish. That's your freedom. It's not enslavement. The Atlantic is a training procedure for you to choose where you want to go. So you can go to Africa dance, you can go to ballet, you can go to Graham, you can go, for you to choose where you want to go. And I hope that many choose to teach it.
So you have demonstrated the unapologetic power of performance to drive social change and steer conversations around emancipation. Why is ownership important when navigating these topics?
Ownership is not only important, it's also scary. It is very frightening. You know, I took this road against a lot of people. A lot of people fought my decision, and it's not a decision, my journey that was given to me by the divine, because I would not have chosen this. It is much easier to choose to do what everybody do. It is much easier to say, come, let's go. Let me play grand play, turn, do develop here, than just go with that. I was trained in that. It is much easier to say, okay, we'll just play the kumina, play the kumina drums, come, dooba-doom, dooba-doom, dooba-doom. It is much more difficult to say, I have loved and appreciate all the cultures that reside in my country. I found out recently that my great-grandfather was from Spain. I thought he was Cuban. So I am going to accept all and try to, you know how much work it is to create. Lantec is not bar, center, and progression, you know. There's spirit dance center, there's floor center, there's progression, there's 6 sections. The bar, there are 6 sections to Lantec. And to come to this conclusion, to decide to do that, and then to make sure my choreography speaks from 1980s to Black Lives Matter. I'm so glad for the 3 words, Black Lives Matter. I had no words to describe it. I only know that I'm choreographing what needs to be said for Black people. So I have a piece called Chat About Them. And that piece speaks about all our Black inventors. Oh, not only that, women. Wow. Black and Black women too. And that was choreographed long ago, called Chat About Them. I have a piece called Libertad, where I tied up the bodies of the dancers and made them dance with no hands. And when we're finished dancing in Cuba, everybody threw roses on the floor. And in Mexico, I have many pieces that speak to Black Lives Matter. 96 degrees in the shade, about the man that was hung. I choreographed to Marcus Garvey's voice long before people, to a poem that he wrote. I took his poem and made it into music, hired musicians. So I have been revolting and resisting all my life, humbly, in a corner named Jamaica, in a dance studio between a mango tree and an ackee tree, where my dancers come and sometimes climb the mango tree and take all my mango them and I fight. Give me a mango. So my choreography cannot not reflect my consciousness. My choreography is part of my purpose. And I bring other choreographers to choreograph on my company because my choreography alone, remember the piece we did for you in London about the Africans, would make people cry too much. So I bring other choreographers who do beautiful light work that make people happy in the middle of my revolution and resistance. And at first, I choreographed a piece called Have You Ever Been There? About a woman who they say is crazy. I see these women on the road. They didn't get up one morning and go mad. Something happened in their life. Sometimes they were beaten. Sometimes they were raped. We need to be sensitive to these women. They didn't just go on the road and walk the street for no reason. Who wants to do that? And recently I did a piece called Womb Screams, about a little girl who got pregnant and nobody spoke to her about sex and pregnancy. Believe it or not, it's still happening. So this child's stomach is growing and she doesn't know what is happening. She's 14 years old in my mind. So what she do? She tried to take out what's making her belly grow. And then she realized it has something to do with her baby and she tried to put it back. It's a painful piece to watch. But that's the purpose of my work. So I know one young lady right now, she's 18 and have 5 children. Whoa, it's happening now. So I have a clothesline on the stage, and every time she gets pregnant, you see her hanging up another set of diapers. And before that, you see her all charming with this young man who is never on stage. He's there. But she thinks she's going to get a husband. And she never gets a husband. My choreography has to speak not only about Black Lives Matter, but for women. Right now, the one I'm doing that is being premiered in this year's season of dance is called Ebony Heads. And it's about 5 Black men that were thrown over the ocean. There's also Cinnamon, about Black men. So I think I'm working for both man and woman. This one is very special to me. Yeah, they were thrown over the ocean. It's dedicated to the Orisha Olokun. You see Olokun on stage trying to help these 5 men who for the first time they are asked to speak. And through their breath and through their choreography, they are telling you their story.
So how do we then affirm and celebrate our elders through the decolonization of dance methodologies?
Just the word decolonization of dance methodologies. I've been all of a sudden I see the word decolonization get famous and everybody is decolonizing milk. They're just decolonizing everything now. I love the world, Everybody ignores and all of a sudden it gets catchy and then it becomes a thing. Well, I have been saying that we need to deconstruct to reconstruct, to decolonize and emancipate the body from slavery. That is my life's work. But I stand on the shoulders of Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who wrote the book Decolonizing the Mind. I can't wait to meet this man. I am in love with this man's work. I stand on the work of another man from Italy called Paulo Ferreira. That's the writer of the book. I stand on all these people's shoulders. I didn't just get up one morning and come up with the word. This book, Decolonization of the Mind, was very, very helpful to my spirit and to what I knew I already believed in.
And also the Louise Bennett poem as well.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Now, Louise Bennett Coverley, everybody stand on her shoulder. Every one of it. The dog poets, the dancehall singer them, every one of us. That woman. And so I have done shows where I thread the entire show with her poetry. And she helps me, because after you see the heavy piece, she lighten up the place, But she lighten up the place with a piece of consciousness that is amazing. So honoring these people are crucial. Honoring not only those who dance, but those who have written. Jean Binta Breeze. Honoring Mutabaruka. Honoring Pearl Primus. Ivy Baxter. Guerra. Eduardo Rivera. Honoring. And I cannot remember every name. Baba Chuck Davis. I can't remember. I am so pleased with the work of Madame Dr. Katrina Hadja Johnson, who wrote the book Jockin, who speaks to the beating of the slaves and all of what she did. There is just so many people to honor that I apologize if I didn't call every name, because we would need the whole of the podcast to call every name. We tend to forget them. And the younger generation tends to believe that everything begins with themselves. And if they start with what they put forward, it cannot be rich. Honoring them in our choreography, in what we write, in our performances, in our documentations, in archival information. Oh God, there are so many ways to honor them.
So what does recognition look like for you?
This podcast is recognition for me. Recognition for me is watching a few days ago Orion Freighter teach a masterclass of Lantic to people from all over the world. Recognition is one of the young men who sent back a video of himself dancing it. Recognition for me is, as I say, you thinking my work is important enough to be able to put me on this podcast. I'm a very humble person who live a very humble life, One time somebody said to me, why aren't you living in the mansions up in the hills? I like where I live. I love my home. I'm around real people in my neighborhood. I am comfortable. I'm not a person who wants to leave material things. I want to leave something in the world that impacts on people's lives. I want to know that when I leave, a little girl, a little boy will say, I am Black and I'm going to dance that. Or I am Black and I agree with everything that Dr. Stines said, but I want to be a ballerina. Because you must decide what you want to be, not because you're told that makes you better, but because your soul is happy doing it. Recognition for me is when you and I sit and drink wine and speak about dance and watching other people fight for dance, Black dance. Fighting for Black dance is not a thing you do for recognition, It's a thing you do because you know it's necessary to do it. Because you know you have been sent here to do that. It's not because you want to get funding and right now they are funding Black dance. And I see that happen. I see people change daily, that today their repertoire was this and tomorrow their repertoire is that because that is going to get funding. That's false. That's fake. That's disrespectful. That's embarrassing.
And finally, this question's becoming a little bit of a tradition in this series. What is the life lesson that you would want to share with others?
Whoa, that's a big one. Because I have many life lessons I would like to share. So you're asking me to pick one. And the most important one for me is to be who you must be. Is to know who you are. Don't go and become a lawyer because your mother wants you to be a lawyer. You have to choose your path. When you have to do something every day, and is that what you're going to do every day for your living? I've never worked a day in my life, You must live the life that you know that your soul feels happiest with, and it will find a way for you to eat. Somehow, your success in it will provide for you. And don't be a fake. Be real. Be real.
Dr. L'Antoinette Stines, thank you.
Blessings and much love from Kingston, Jamaica.
Thank you for listening. You can read more about Black Manifesto in Black Ink, a new publication from Serendipity, which brings together international voices from the African and African Caribbean diaspora and Indigenous communities to discuss Black arts, heritage and cultural politics. In the next episode of Black Manifesto, we'll be joined by Cynthia Oliver for the commandment, Race Matters. Remember who created it. Long live James Baldwin! The Black Manifesto podcast is sponsored by the National Education Union. This podcast was edited by Hannah Hethman and Julia Letts at Better Lemon Creative Audio, with research by Ms. Dora Allison and Amy Grain. For more information on content to support your own learning, visit our Resources for Change pages at serendipity-uk.com.